Welcome to the Cathedral of Motor Racing, the Assen TT, for round 4 of the 2014 Sidecar World Championship. Crowds this weekend will be bigger than the entire population of the town as world-class motor racing comes to the Netherlands. And with Ben and Tom Birchall back on the grid for the latest contest, this should be a real treat after Tim Reeves and Gregory Clues extended their championship lead as the only top team on the grid in Rijeka. The Autodrome Grobnik was the venue for the 2014 Croatian Grand Prix, held across 2 races for round 3 of the championship. The customary poor start for Makula and Asumanimi was to prove the main talking point of the sprint race, as it prompted a great battle from the Finnish duo to work their way through from the back. Having taken 5th on the opening lap, they moved up another position with a dive down the inside of Rutzenhofer and then around the outside of Gurk and Weschelberger to take a podium space. But they couldn't get to Reeves and Clues out in front. Victory in the sprint made to look easy. With the Birchalls absent through injury and 2 outfits withdrawn after practice on day 1, the gold race was expected to be another simple demonstration for Reeves and Clues. Makula and Asumanimi again the headline act, having to work their way through from 6th, and spent much of the race pitched in a battle with Gurk and Weschelberger swapping and changing positions. Good action down the order as well, with Rocher and Burkhardt making good progress. And the drama wasn't over until the final lap when Streuer and Kurtz retired from 2nd. First ever podium for Gurk and Weschelberger, but an even better result for Reeves and Clues in front. 40 points is the gap at the top of the championship between Tim Reeves Racing and Gurk and Weschelberger in 2nd. The German duo have yet to show they can match the pace of the front runners, so the main challenge is likely to come from Ben and Tom Birchall, who now sit 3rd in the title race. With 6 races to come this season, the contest is still far from over. And with the Birchall brothers back on the grid, the first of 2 Dutch Grand Prix for 2014 was expected to be vital. 4 teams coming into the Dutch Grand Prix separated by just 5 points in the battle for 3rd in the title race. The British duo mixed in amongst them. The usual suspects occupying the top 5 positions, with the local riders packed in behind. Any chance of predictability, though, had already been washed away by a heavy shower an hour before the scheduled start, leaving riders facing a tough start to an important race.
Three-quarters of the track is wet and 1/4 is dry, so it's going to be very tricky, but I think it'll be good. It'll be okay. 2 or 3, we'll have two more warm-up laps, and then maybe 2 or 3 laps in the race there'll be a dry line, so it's a bit of a gamble for the tyres, but I go with slicks.
With dry weather forecast for the race, all of the outfits selected slick tyres on the drying circuit. Reeves and Clues taking up pole position, with the Birchall brothers expected to be their only challengers sitting right alongside them in 2nd. 14 outfits making the grid for this race, with 6 wildcards boosting the ranks and a total of 10 Dutchmen on the start line. 15 laps of one of the most prestigious circuits in the world were about to get underway in Assen. Championship leaders Tim Reeves and Gregory Clues on top spots. But it didn't last for long, as the Birchall brothers snatched the whole shot and Reeves and Clues struggled to find any grip in the run down to the first bend, slipping immediately to 5th. The Birchalls out in front, with home favourites Streuer and Kurtz holding 2nd ahead of Reeves and Clues, who'd already made up 2 positions in 2 turns to sit in 3rd. The Birchalls on their racing return, hoping to build an early race buffer as the top guns chose caution over outright pace on the damp track. And it wasn't long before Reeves and Clues were right on the back of Streuer and Kurtz here in the tussle for 2nd. The title leaders clearly being held at bay by the Dutchmen, particularly down into the braking zone towards turn 9 there. The Birchalls trying to escape away. 9/10 of a second between the front 2 at the end of the opening lap. Reeves and Clues having passed and then shaken off Streuer and Kurtz, all on lap number 1, and they spent the entirety of the 2nd lap just trying to keep with the front runners, who seem to have a good rhythm on the wet, dry Assen track. Nonetheless, it had been an impressive recovery from the green liveried machine after an appalling start to the race, and they were back in contention for the lead. Meanwhile, behind them, Makula and Asumanimi led a train of riders from 5th. One of their customary poor starts had dropped them 4 places back, but they'd worked their way back to this position by this stage and begun to build a buffer over the number 13 Suzuki of Zimmerman and Faber behind. Number 7 Suzuki of Gallern and Shano doing well on the opening lap to move up a position to 11th. The highest performing of the Dutch wildcards, meanwhile, the number 5 Yamaha of Smits and Verbrugge in 9th. Estonian duo Palm and Mayes rounding out the top 10 on lap number 3. After a career best finish of 4th last time out in Croatia, Rocher and Burkhardt were again looking good in the Netherlands on the number 66 BMW, involved in a battle with the number 13 Suzuki, led by fellow countryman Robert Zimmerman. And the two were swapping and changing positions. Rocher and Burkhardt at one stage behind, then ahead once again. And it wasn't long before they came under attacks like this. Big lunge around the northern loop up the inside from Robert Zimmerman on the number 13 Suzuki to come through. Well, Rocher and Burkhardt had passed their rivals back by the end of the lap anyway. Up at the front, the gap continued to narrow between the leading Birchall brothers and Tim Reeves racing behind. The number 77 Kawasaki tucking in behind the Suzuki pairing around the northern loop. And he did go on to make the pass, setting a new fastest lap in the process. An astounding 1.5 seconds better than their nearest rivals on lap 3. Reeves and Clues were starting to take control after safely negotiating the hazards of the first 2 laps. After their first full lap of running in clear air out in front, they would immediately take a 1-second buffer to the Birchalls behind. It wasn't quite so easy for everyone on the grid. Kranenberg and Schmidt struggling at the back from the opening lap, and they eventually retired with mechanical problems on lap 3, the Yamaha engine letting go. A real shame after their 11th place in qualifying. With the track continuing to dry, every lap in the early stages of the race saw a new fastest lap of the contest. Reeves and Clues taking half a second off their previous best here. Behind the front-running duos, Stroyer and Kurtz looked likely to take the 3rd step on the podium, but after their retirement from 2nd last time out in Croatia, they'd be well aware of the perils of attrition in sidecar racing. They nonetheless held a gap of 5 seconds to Gürk and Weschelberger behind them. Makula and Asumanimi in 5th, doing their work from the back as ever and closing in by around a second per lap. The 18 and 99 outfits built up something of a rivalry in Croatia, finishing separated by just 1 position across both races out in Rijeka. Reliability, though, has been the main problem for the Finns so far this year. There was still a train of outfits running nose to tail in the battle for 9th. Smits and Verbrugge, second a lap faster than the rest of the pack at this stage. Rutz and Hoffer surprisingly unable to find any pace at all, running some 13 seconds per lap from the speed of the race leaders. The number 6 machine of Talens and De Haas was starting to slip back towards the group, running 2 seconds a lap slower than Smits and Verbrugge behind them. The gap at this stage narrowed to just under 4 seconds in the race for 8th, while Palm and Mayes were closing in on both outfits in 10th. The Estonians setting up an attractive battle for the minor positions. Their number 17 outfit making its World Championship debut and closing in by 2 seconds a lap at this point. The four-way battle boiling up for 8th, 2 outfits running pretty lonely races. Championship regulars Gallern and Shano in 12th. And Dutch brothers Ritzer and Ritzer at the back, but getting closer to the pace lap by lap. The Birchall brothers were pegging the gap to Reeves and Clue, slipping just 1/10 further in arrears in second to sit 1.5 seconds behind. They were still within striking distance for the race lead, and already the lead outfit some 5 seconds faster than they had been earlier on in the race. Still treacherous to come off the dry line, but the top two making it look as easy as ever. Reeves and Clues beginning to carve their way much faster through the back markers than their rivals, a 1:44 dead on lap 6, taking out another second on the Birchall brothers. The number 56 outfit of Rutzenhofer, the next duo to be negotiated by the race-leading number 77. 2 seconds a lap slower than the race leaders, but a full second faster than Gurk and Weschelberger on the previous lap. Streuer and Kurtz were running a lonely race towards third. The gap still 4 seconds between 4th and 5th positions. The two outfits separated by just 3/1000th of a second on lap 8 and pitched in their usual battle. And the race was hotting up for 6th. Zimmermann and Faber having twice come past Roscher and Burkhardt and trying to do it again on lap 10. These two outfits clearly very evenly matched after their race-long struggle, but having finally grabbed some clear air, the number 13 duo would hope to pull away. The race for 8th also coming alive. Smits and Verbrugge having closed in by 4.5 seconds over the two previous laps. Tallens and de Haas seemed sitting ducks, and that's exactly how it proved as they were easily dispatched around the Northern Loop. Good racing between two of the wildcards. A second behind that battle, Palm and Mayers were trying to join in, running a second a lap faster than Tallens and de Haas, who were continuing to slip back. And behind that trio, all running close on the circuit, Rutzenhofer were some 20 seconds behind, and although their pace was gradually improving, they had too much ground to make up. Gallen and Shano sitting 12th as they had since lap 2. Holding position would give them 5 points to move up to 9th in the championship. The only unresolved position down the field was the race for 4th. Makuland Asumanimi had set a personal best of a 1:45.1 on lap 10, only half a second off the leader's pace, and enough to get right onto the tail of Gurk and Weschelberger. Five seconds the gap up front, where Rees and Clues looked comfortable. Finishing second in every race for the rest of the season would be enough to guarantee them the title. They clearly felt no need to settle for second best. Ben and Tom Birchall, the winners here last season, seemingly unable to recapture that form. Gurk and Weschelberger now not too far off the pace of Streuer and Kurtz in third, but the Dutchmen had a comfortable enough margin to head towards a podium in what would be their second of the season. Big stride forward from their season's best finish of 5th in Assen last year. Gurk and Weschelberger just making their way through the back markers there. Swapping and changing all race in the tussle for 6th, Roscher and Burkhardt had got back past, seemingly faster on the southern loop of the circuit, but in the slower speed turns, Zimmermann and Faber the dominant force, and it wasn't long before they were looking for a way back through. Diving up the inside here of the number 66 BMW. Great racing over the 10 championship points. So much more valuable to Roscher and Burkhardt, the series regulars. But Zimmermann and Faber clearly no less keen to put in a performance in Assen. Zimmermann lifting the chair wheel off the ground there as he tried to get the power down early. Roscher and Burkhardt were still right in touch. The squabble would clearly go to the finish, just 0.2 of a second separating the duos, and each trading purple sectors. With Smits and Verbrugge continuing to pull away in 8th, the race was still on behind him. Between the 6 and 17 machines, they struggle almost a lap behind. The race leaders here, the gap still between them, over 4 seconds, but the Birchall brothers setting a personal best to start to get back in the race. picking up that battle between the 6 and the 17. Talens and De Haas really being made to work hard. But Palm and Meyers having a tougher time of it each time they got onto the back of their rivals. And nonetheless, the Dutch duo having to watch over their shoulders. Meanwhile, the Birchall brothers had taken another 8/10 out of the race lead. 5 riders heading down towards the southern loop in a pack, but 2 different battles here. 8th, 9th and 10th, the 5, 6 and 17 outfits. And both Reeves and Clues and the Birchall brothers picking their way through the lap traffic. The Birchalls this time doing so the fastest and narrowing the race lead. Palm and Meyers having to get right out of it there to allow the British duo through. And that would cost them in their race for 9th. A reminder of the lower order positions. Rutz and Hoffer in 11th, their worst place of the season so far. Gallen and Shano in 12th, set to add another 5 championship points to their tally. And Ritzer running at the back, setting a personal best on lap 12, but still 10 seconds back from their nearest challengers. Having passed Rocha and Burkhardt for 6th, this time Zimmerman and Faber looked like they were finally pulling away. A personal best on lap 13, a 1:48.4, had given them a 1-second buffer over the 66 outfit behind them. It clearly still wasn't over. Despite dropping 3/10 on the previous lap, Makula and Asu Manimi were still providing a threat to Gurk and Weschelberger in 4th. If they could get them, 13 championship points would be enough to move up to 4th in the title race. Heading towards the final lap, Reeves and Clues still held the lead from the Birchalls in 2nd. Stroyer and Kurtz occupying 3rd with 40 clear seconds of track ahead of them and 5 behind to Gurk and Weschelberger, only narrowly holding Makula and Asu Manimi at bay. Rocha and Burkhardt was the next of the championship regulars in 7th, behind Zimmerman and Faber, and with 3 wildcard outfits trailing. Palm and Meyers were right on the tail of Talens and De Haas, a personal best of a 1:49.5, 2 seconds quicker than the Dutchmen on lap 12. Finding a way past always significantly harder, as Rocha and Burkhardt's consistent struggles for 6th place had proved. Gurk still lifting his passenger off the ground around the northern loop. Spectacular sidecar action as ever. Reeves and Clues meanwhile heading towards the win. A stunning fastest lap on lap 13, a 1:43 dead. Had really ended the race as a serious contest. So the only action was down the field with the smoother Makula and Asu Manimi trying to find a way past Gurk and Weschelberger. And the last-minute dramas that seemed to follow sidecar racing around the globe had struck again up in 5th. Makula and Asu Manimi had clashed with long-standing rivals Gurk and Weschelberger when trying to put in that pass. Both had gone spinning down the circuit, and neither were having it easy. Getting their machines going again, Gurk and Weschelberger had kept it in gear and could pull away. Makula and Asu Manimi, meanwhile, requiring the intervention of the marshals, desperately trying to get the machine going. They were in line for 11 vital championship points. Zimmerman and Faber, Rocha and Burkhardt would swiftly be through, though, to take up 5th and 6th, and still no joy for the Finns. The Birchall brothers had taken the fastest lap of the race on lap 14 by 4/1000ths of a second. But by this stage, we're just over 3 seconds behind and with no chance of making that up in just 1 lap. Reeves and Clues taking the checkered flag, Ben and Tom Birchall having to settle for seconds. Makula and Asu Manimi, meanwhile, retiring on the final lap. No points in the World Championship unless you pass the checkered flag. The other outfits inheriting valuable points. Celebrations for Reeves and Clues, and a good comeback ride from Ben and Tom Birchall as well. A 4th successive win for the number 77 Kawasaki, That means Reeves and Clues have dropped just 9 points all season so far. Tim Reeves restoring a love affair with a circuit where he last won in 2008. Gregory Clues was on the podium that day as well, but down in third on a different outfit. In 2014, they took the top spot together. And a good performance for Streuer and Kurtz gave the Dutch fans something to cheer as well. After 2 retirements in the first 4 races of the year, they are stranded down the championship order, but 2 podium finishes in the last 3 races going some way towards combating that. Meanwhile, for Makula and Asumanimi, a stroke of bad luck and their second non-scoring round of the season. And after a series of strong laps as well, where they had worked hard to close in on 4th, the frustration of failing to finish will have been huge. But another controlled race from Reeves and Clues. They ran exactly the pace they needed to, consistent throughout the race. The Birchall brothers actually stole away the fastest lap of the race in the run to the finish, a 1:42.5, half a second faster than the best time from Reeves and Clues, but they were just too inconsistent, particularly between laps 8 and 10. Nonetheless, that fastest lap of the race will give them heart for the next round. Kawasaki outfit having taken control of this one at the mid-race phase, but full credit to Tom Birchall getting back onto the machine after a hand injury at the Isle of Man TT and putting valuable championship points on the board. All smiles for the Birchall Racing Suzuki. Streuer and Kurtz home for third. They were almost 3 seconds off the pace in qualifying despite setting their own personal best around the circuit, so they knew they wouldn't be able to match the top 2. But unlike last time out in Croatia, they brought the machine home. The gaps between the riders seem more dramatic at the finish after the late race dramas for Gerk and Weschelberger, who were not too far from the pace of Streuer and Kurtz on the last step of the podium. But only 6 outfits finished on the lead lap in the end, the top 2 as dominant as ever.
It was not easy in the beginning. It was really bad, but it was good.
Yeah, just pleased to be here, and thanks to all my team that's helped me, and especially to Mark Hayton, who's the surgeon that's helped me get here. And behind the scenes, everybody's worked dead hard while I've been sort of in hospital and not been able to move much. So yeah, thrilled with second. Wish we'd have won, but congratulations to Tim and Greg, and hopefully we'll just get stronger from now on, and we can take the fight to him at the next one.
We couldn't do a good start, but we managed to catch up with Ben and Tom, and we done a good race. Couldn't be better. The track is fantastic. The fans are here, so no, we are really pleased with the weekend.
The retirement of Makula and Asumanimi drops them 21 points back from the top 3 as the championship continues to shake down. A third consecutive double-figure tally for Rocher and Burkhardt moves their outfit to 4th in the title race. The German duo, though, will expect to soon be under pressure from Streuer and Kurtz, who move up to 6th with a podium at their home event. Ben and Tom Birchall moving back into 2nd in the title race after getting the better of Gerk and Weschelberger, who now slip to 3rd overall. But the winner in Assen, taking a 4th race victory in succession, the Kawasaki machine of Tim Reeves and Gregory Clues.